Welcome, everybody, to another fabulous show of WTF, and that is What the Fixed Ops to all of you out there. We're really excited today. I am Russell Hill, your host, and I'm also joined by...
I'm Charity Dunning. I'm the CMO at FixedOPS Marketing and the co-host here at WTF.
Absolutely. We have a very, very, very special guest today, Mr. Sean Reyes, who's the Chief Marketing Officer of Recall Masters. And welcome to our show today, Sean.
Thank you so much, guys. It's an honor to be here. I've been a big fan of the show, and gosh knows, I stopped over at the booth at NADA, Russell, and I got a chance to shake hands with Charity, but you were probably at some VIP event. So, always great to catch up with you guys to see how many great things you guys are doing out there for dealers. So I'm hoping that what I have to share today would be interesting.
Well, I think it will be, John. We're really glad. Now, for all of you out there, it's been a while, but we have a co-host, Nico. He might occasionally make appearance, but you know what? That's what all this is about. It's about cutting it up. It's about talking. It's about ideas. It's about what's going on today. It's about what's going on in the future. And part of what's going on in the future, as well as today, is recalls, a huge missed opportunity in a lot of dealerships today. So I think that let's do this. Sean, just tell us about you, what you do, and who exactly you are.
So I come from the automotive space back in the days with a couple of companies that not only did in the fintech space, but also loyalty programs. And I had met a group of individuals that then were contemplating building out solutions for dealers as it pertained to recalls. At the time, and this goes back about 8 years ago, nobody was really interested in recalls. It was poor reimbursement. It was kind of assumed or presumed that consumers were cheap. And so anything that was free or no cost to them wouldn't be very relevant for a dealer to spend any kind of marketing dollars for. And then the third piece was that, hey, the factory is doing this all for us. Why would I pay for a separate company to go and chase down those opportunities? So we knew that we were challenged with something, but we also recognized that it was the right thing to do by consumers, and it turned out that it was very profitable for dealers. So we built it out, and we've been doing that ever since. And 8 years later, we are able to introduce dealers to 3 times more vehicles and consumers than the factory, because we find those second, third, fourth generation owners that the factory is neither interested in keeping up with, nor can they keep up with, because again, the federal mandate from NHTSA is that they only have to communicate a recall to the original owner. So once that vehicle exchanges hands, and we know this more than ever now that those vehicles are exchanging hands at such a rapid rate that it's impossible for the dealer to find them. It's impossible for the factory to find them. And that's where we ended up filling the gap, not only with dealers, but with the factory.
So what did you do prior to 8 years ago?
Gosh, this goes back about 15 years ago. So I have, I had my own marketing agency that had mortgages and finance and insurance. And then I took on an automotive client at the time. And I'm a car guy from way back. When I was in high school, I rebuilt my mom's 68 Chevelle from the ground up. And rebuilt the motor, everything. I mean, it was a frame off restoration. In fact, we have time. We could probably spend the next hour talking about my 72 Chevy C10, and then my next project that's coming up after that. But I'm a car guy, so the opportunity to take on a client, a dealer client, as part of my marketing agency was I think I probably worked for free for that guy, because I just loved it. I love being around car guys. I love being around the industry. So getting a chance to really, kind of help factories and help more dealers. What I originally wanted to do when I left high school is probably most of your audience will probably attest to as well. I wanted to go to Detroit and design the next evolution of vehicles. So I had these really high aspirations about mechanical engineering and what I was going to be able to do with my career. And then I ran across subjects like thermodynamics and Fortran and figured, you know what, I don't think I'm going to be very good at this. I changed majors, and lo and behold, 25 years later, I run into automotive again. So it's my first love. It will be my ongoing love. So here I am.
That's awesome. So are you, you mentioned a little bit before, I don't know if we recorded this or not, but you're married, you have children?
Yeah.
Who are they and how old are they? Let's find out about your fam.
Oh, we got another hour in that. So Catherine and I are together. We are partners, and we live in Napa, California. So in case
nice area.
any of you want to come up and visit me, come please.
Yes.
Just reach out to me.
We'll take you up on that.
Yes, please do. So I know our good friend Brian Pash comes into Napa once a year, but yeah, for sure, I live there day in, day out. Our corporate headquarters is in Laguna Niguel, or Laguna Hills, in Southern California. So not a bad place to spend as well. So between Napa and Orange County, I'm back and forth. Collectively, Catherine has 2 kids, 2 daughters. They're all around the same age, but Catherine's youngest will be graduating tomorrow from the University of Hawaii with a degree in computer engineering. And then I have 3 kids, again, all in the same age. So between us, we have 5 in their 20s. And then we have 2 more kids that we somewhat adopted through a basketball program called Prolific Prep.
Man, that is awesome.
That is.
So we got 7 kids.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Tell us about your adopted basketball stars.
Yeah. So if you watched the NBA draft last year, there was a kid named Jalen Green who got recruited. I think he was the number 2 overall pick in the NBA. He was playing for the NBA's G League, but he started off in his high school career playing at Prolific in Napa. So I've had Jalen at my house a couple of times, and we've had a number of kids that have come through that program who are all Division I players, and some of them get lucky enough to make it into the NBA. So I've got 2 of those kids right now. One of them was at Ohio State, is transferred over to San Jose State, and the other was at Cincinnati, and he's now at Santa Barbara. So we get a chance to see them close to home, and their journey continues. But I don't know if it's got NBA in the future, but we're definitely happy to help them fulfill their dreams. So it's been a pleasure for us.
That's wonderful.
It's awesome. It is. It's great. Yeah, I mean, we're obviously talking about business and what you do and who you are too, but part of who you are is your family.
Right.
And the challenges and roadblocks, like you shared with us a minute ago, about big dreams and aspirations to do this or that, and you're still connected to automotive. And I find that automotive people are extremely driven people. I also found that they're very giving people as well, or the ones that and I would say most of them, right? In any industry, it's all about giving back. And I think of you as not just a leader, but a servant leader, somebody who gives back and nurtures and helps other people along. So congratulations to you on that, sir.
I'm humbled by that, Russell. That's absolutely what I try to do. Is try to inform and educate and help our industry learn more about the opportunities that are still awaiting for them. So glad to be here and glad to be a servant in that capacity.
Good. Our Sean, our industry, and I like you, I've been in this industry a long time. I find it fascinating that Jason Harris, right? You know who Jason Harris is, right? So he always asks people, he always starts it out the same way, the origin story. What got you started? And for me, it was 1968 and Hot Wheels. Of course, I didn't get in the car business till 85. But listen, everything in the last little over 2 years has changed, okay? Pre-pandemic, we had the longest run in automotive history, in sales, et cetera, that was historical, just overwhelmingly successful, and it came to a screeching halt. Tell us how that affected you.
Yeah, for sure. I think in the first few weeks of the pandemic, We worked with all of our dealer clients to either pause or reduce or stop altogether any kind of billing. That's just what we are. We're still a self-funded organization. We bootstrapped this thing from the beginning, although we've had many callers, inquiring about an acquisition, which is always, a validation that what you're doing is the right thing. We've always maintained that we probably have the best vision of where we'd like to go and what we'd like to do. I mean, it starts with working collaboratively with each one of our dealer clients and with the industry. So sometimes you got to pause billing. I mean, sometimes you've got to, do a few things that are free or no cost for a dealer to, help them. So I think, first of all, it was just us putting our ear to the rail and making sure that we were making the adjustments that were going to help our dealers stay active. So it was a tough, scary time for all of us.
Now, it sounds to me, it sounds like you're very proactive about that for a lot of reasons. I remember with a couple of different companies, it was that way. Certain parts of the country that are devastated by, climate catastrophes, pausing or assisting them, not waiting for them to say something, but know what's going on and where they're at and offering up that kind of stuff. Or the big downturn in 08. This, however, was substantially different, right? Because the whole world paused. The whole world paused. Now, in that pause, we reinvented ourselves, right? There's a huge paradigm shift that's going on, and everybody's stuck. Sales closed, service was still essential, so those doors, but people were driving less, so they weren't coming in as often, and they were all, antimicrobial sprays and wipe downs and remoteless pay, and we had and pick up and drop off, and we were doing whatever we could to assist our clients and still, stay in business. And then, within a year, the chip shortage, inventory is depleted, right? And this is where we're at now. I do, there's mixed opinions on what's going on out there, but I know this: service is more essential now than at any other point in time. And we know that the average vehicle on the road today is over 12 years old. We know that there's a huge defection that we're all in the midst of trying to stop that by engaging with our active customers and keeping them active where they don't fall off at 36 to 39 months. And I think Recall Masters is a pivotal part of that. Tell us about that.
Yeah, no, so it starts with, good data or great data. The one thing that I think I mentioned was that we're able to find 3 times the number of vehicles on the road than the factory. And that's because we've aggregated more than 85 billion data touch points related to the consumer. We might have a catalog, the largest catalog as it relates to vehicle ownership. Then I think the only one that might be able to top us is if you got all 50 states to agree to share data across DMVs.
Wow.
Other than that, we are probably the single largest owner of vehicle and owner information. So we're able to find those owners, those, second, third, fourth generation owners, and again, compare that to a dealer's DMS to find out, which of those owners are still active content, whether their contact information is accurate in the dealer's DMS, and we help append that so that the dealer can remain in contact. But in essence, we decided a long time ago, like when we first got going, Russell, we were only doing data and technology, where we were aggregating not only this consumer data, but aggregating NHTSA data regarding recalls, and then helping dealers take that information and through technology embed it in their workflow so that they could have their BDCs communicate with consumers. Well, the reality is BDCs have a full table as it is. There's nobody in the dealership that was really kind of getting behind active communications. And so that was a third piece that was really the missing piece, which is that last mile, that connection of a recall notification through the technology, and then ultimately to the customer's doorstep, where they could get through one phone call, through one centralized call center that we have that is in the US, that is US based and bilingual. They have one throat to choke. One call does it all. They can call in, find out all the information about the recall, the do's and the don'ts, how long it will take to repair, all the dealer amenities, and then our call center team will even schedule that appointment through the scheduling platform of the dealer. So we take all that heavy lifting off the dealer, and we saw that ultimately was what consumers wanted, and they're not able to get that through a NHTSA, you know.
No, they're not. Yeah, I remember a company that I had before this one. We had a feed we get from the NHTSA or whatever, you know,
Right.
whatever it was. But
Yeah,
but even before that, I was partners in a CRM company from 2000 to 2011. And I remember it was a bloodbath. So these huge recalls would come out. Nobody knew what the hell was going on. But they would say, okay, let's build an email template, send it out to the entire database, blah, blah, blah. And of course, there's no parts, Sean. There was an onslaught of calls and people driving into the dealership, and there's no parts. And needless to say, it left a horrible, horrible taste in the consumer's mouth. It sounds like you have, and even that, and still they're being reactive, not really proactive. They thought they were. Yeah, nothing on the website, or if there was, it was very limiting on what you could or couldn't do and couldn't find out, et cetera. And it sounds like you've kind of taken that out of the dealership's hands and made that transition very easy for consumers, right?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I mean, it all started again with the data, but we were so focused on recall and NHTSA compliance that we probably spent that first year just making sure that we were meeting all federal guidelines for TCPA compliance and compliant communications to consumers. That is probably the toughest part of what we do, is making sure that what we do, whether it's through emails or snap pack direct mail pieces or our SMS texting, is we are on the platform that is about safety for the consumer, which puts us in a totally different category than a marketing company. So there's a lot of things that I can't do from our marketing communications that dealers will ask me, like, hey, over here on the notice, can you put that we've got a tire special?
No,
we can't do any of that. Yeah, we can't do any of that. Now we've since taken probably in the last 2 years really kind of bolstered up product offerings that really do meet some of those dealers' needs to go and conquest off recall type of stuff. But for the most part, we are still revolving around recalls and what it takes to get that consumer to come in and take action. So that's one of the first places that a dealer will often throw an objection at me, which is, well, this is already being taken care of by the factory. So once we kind of show them, well, there's a lot of vehicles out there, and your factory is not able to find them, but it's also the ability to not only communicate them and to notify to them, but it's also carrying them through that entire journey. And we work a lot with surveying consumers and working with our call centers to make sure that we are always optimizing for the best return on investment and the best conversion. Because like I said, if you can't compel those owners to bring those vehicles into the dealership, then you're probably no different than NHTSA. I mean, you're right. Yeah. NHTSA is free. Why would I pay? And the difference is that we're able to compel owners to take action on these recall notices. So the one thing that I was going to tell you, all the things that changed during the pandemic, the one thing that stayed consistent is that recalls were still floating out there. Mm-hmm. And when we went through this little pause period that probably lasted about 3 or 4 weeks, we were getting dealers calling us and saying, okay, well, now that we've got our microbial spray, now we're doing safe servicing, we find consumers that they're now able to take care of that recall. So we need to kind of pick things up again, which was great news to us. And again, what didn't go away and what didn't change is the abundance of recalls that are still outstanding. So we track currently 1 in 4 vehicles on the road have an open recall. That's an awful lot of consumers that are waiting for your dealership to connect with them. And if you think that the factory's little notice that gets thrown in the trash is going to do it, it doesn't. So that's where we were able to pick up that piece. And then we've since added voluntary recalls. So the factory notices that are often TSBs, and a lot of folks think, oh, these are just nuisance recalls, right? Like the volume knob falls off, bring in your car so we can put the volume knob back on. Not true. We've seen many.
Well, they're not a nuisance to me. I can tell you that right now.
Right. Well, they're safety related too. I mean, these are where the NHTSA federally mandated recalls go to be born. They start off as a factory notice that something's
Well,
going
I got to tell you, my volume control in my car is important to me because I'm always turning it up or turning it down.
That's one of those things that'll drive you nuts if you don't have it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
And of course,
And we see a lot of dealers that are servicing off brands too, or taking off brands in at trade-in. So once you start kind of really digging deep into, well, how often are we running into recalls as a dealership? Yeah, especially today more than ever. They don't even need to produce new cars for us that we're going to be in business for a while, and those numbers keep going up.
Yeah, I got to tell you. So, for the first 16 years of my career, I was, I sold and worked my way up and was actually running a Chrysler Jeep Plymouth store back in the day. Of course, Plymouth is obviously since long gone. But even before that, it was in 1996, we got our website at the dealership. I was at a Nissan Mitsubishi store at that time. And super fast, AOL dial-up modem back in the day, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so, websites obviously are crucial. There was a lot of ancillary, research websites, that people would go to, but now all that stuff is in-house. Some of those are obviously still there for third-party validation, et cetera. But a lot of that stuff from the manufacturer, et cetera, are actually in the website. But even what I saw back then regarding service and parts and accessories is almost the same way today. There's still a handful, if anything, there, or a picture of scissors cutting out along the dotted line.
Right.
Now everybody's on these today, and then it was really challenging for consumers to get educated or find information out. Now that's obviously changed, particularly with what you do. So you have exposure on the dealer's website. Tell us a little bit about that and how that works.
Yeah, no, we recognize that, for a vast majority of our dealers, when they were needing to share information about a potential recall on their website, they would say, hey, click here and learn about recalls. And it would send them to the factory site, right? So as a marketer, right, like that's the worst thing you want to do is push all that traffic off your site. And it turned out that in, no fault of their own, but the factories were often referring potential service customers over to a competing dealer. So we knew this is not right. Like there's a way that we can help dealers. We can take our massive library of recalls, as well as our voluntary recalls, and we can put them, create a web widget and allow the dealer to do on-site recall check. And that also includes the ability for the consumer to enter in their information to be alerted on any future recalls. So now we're able to give dealers, from a marketing standpoint and the digital market, a unique landing page that allows for lead capture. That's everything. That's gold in the digital marketing world. I've been doing this for 35 years. My whole practice is built around digital marketing and finding efficiencies. And that's the one thing I was interesting to me for dealers is, you're just a redistributor. I know this is really hard to digest if you're in the dealership, but you're really selling similar brands and offering similar services that another competing dealership. So you're looking for every point of differentiation. Why not be a beacon of safety for your local community that may even have an off brand? They want to check all the vehicles in their households and even the brands that you don't service. Why not? Why not offer that? In fact, 6 to 9% of these people that go through and check their VIN, eventually they bring those vehicles into the dealership and will take a trade-in because they want to do business with people that actually care about their lives. So
yeah, absolutely. I know a lot of dealers, matter of fact, most that will work on most makes and models to keep that business in-house. Now, once again, I think things have really transitioned in the last couple of years, and people are paying more and more attention to it, particularly now since chip shortage, et cetera. Websites are designed for inventory. There's no inventory. It's basically an order bank. So the focus has been, in my opinion, of course, I'm in this space and you're in this space too, or we're in this space, is that, service is really huge. And there's some manufacturers and a lot more following suit that are stopped paying on the CSI stuff. Here's what they're paying on. Active customers at least twice a year coming into your store. And we need to stop this bleeding at 36 to 39 months, which feeds, another whole segment, right? The NADA said there's 16 non-franchise entities that are all jockeying for that same business. And they know franchise dealers have been sleeping at the wheel, but I think they're starting to wake up a little bit. Don't you?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, if you just look at the numbers, I think something like 70% of the services that are occurring with consumers are happening outside of a dealership, right? And a lot of those, it's tires, oil changes,
Right.
windshield repair, collision repair. I mean, and a lot of dealers don't necessarily want to go and chase that opportunity. And I understand why. A lot of this requires a massive infrastructure. And, right now, the market's good, you're getting good margins. You're not really thinking about, well, what happens when some of these small independents reopen again? And aftermarket starts to boom, or even worse than that is the electrical vehicles that don't require as much servicing. And if you look at, I don't know if there's some folks that I know that they're focused on tires now because they look at defection rates, and it almost occurs at the same. It's not just the warranty. It's like your first need for tires happens at that same time.
No question about it. We're firm believers in that, educating people about tires. Yeah.
Right. And so I'm not a big advocate, one way or the other, but what I can tell you is, all you need to do is talk to your consumers and your customers about what it is that they're looking for. And the things that we thought were 10 years away, like mobile repair, right? They're happening now. And that's because consumers want to service their vehicles. They just need a more convenient way of doing it. So
well, there's this misnomer out there that the local Goodyear store down the street, the oil change is cheaper or less expensive. And that's not necessarily the case than what it is at your own dealership, but they don't know that. Now, I've always got my tires from Discount Tire, the national brand, right? But franchise dealers could be just competitive, and they don't have to have thousands of SKUs. Even Discount Tire doesn't. Some of them, they do hot shipments in 24 hours, depending on if you got staggered, wheels and stuff like that. But here's what I found that makes a difference. And I'm seeing a lot of dealerships doing this now. You roll in over this thing, and it can show you wear and tear, tire inflation, toe, camber and toe, and et cetera, et cetera. So it knows if it needs to be aligned, if it's under pressure, et cetera. But I know when I go to Discount, I don't care if I was there a week ago, they always come out and look at and check the tread depth of every single one of my tires. I mean, it takes a couple of minutes, but it means a whole lot to me, because that is an extremely important safety item. I got my kids and my grandkids in my car, and it affects stopping, and all that kind of stuff. What you do is similar. It's all about safety and recall, right?
Right. Well, I mean, if you touch the wheel alignment, you're touching the wheel. If you're touching the wheel, you're touching the brakes. Touching the brakes, talking. You're touching all the other parts that really, might involve in the alignment as well as the tread. And so there's a lot that's connected to that. And that's what we found with recalls is, listen, here's your chance to roll out the red carpet to these consumers, invite them into your dealership to maybe experience something totally different, right? Like I don't think dealerships today are the same as what they were 2 years ago, but it's a different experience now. And I think dealerships have definitely woken up, and most service leaderships right now retooled their entire service departments to really cater to the consumer. So the free Wi-Fi and the hot coffee is just not good enough. You can do better. And so by really appealing to a consumer with something like a recall, they can experience the dealership environment again at no cost out of their pocket. And it turns out, look at this crazy stat, 51.8% of that revenue that comes in is customer pay. And that's shocking for a lot of dealers, because they always thought, well, this is all warranty work. Well, of course, you've seen warranty reimbursement increase with some of the state legislation that's going on out there, but there's also CP revenue, and that is a shrinking, more competitive space. And guess what? These independents, all of their revenue is CP. So if you want more of that, you're going to have to figure out how to compete for that. And recalls is probably the best way to invite them in, get some good warranty revenue on that. And it turns out if you treat them well, they not only service or pay you 51% of that RO, which I think right now we're averaging $579 average RO. So even if you're short on tax, ask yourself, where would that $579 RO rank in terms of your priority? But 51.8% of that revenue is going to be CP revenue. So, and then again, you layer on the 6 to 9% who will come back and purchase their next vehicle from you. So you know what the drop off is, right? Like, I think it's something like 86% of those people who service regularly with the dealership that sold them the vehicle, 86% of their time will buy their next vehicle from you. But if they're not servicing, I think it falls well below 10%.
Yeah, I think that, you know, you mentioned the tire thing earlier. It'd be just like the recall. If they buy tires from you, there is a direct correlation to that drop off, because they're going to go elsewhere to get tires, or they think that services are cheaper. Now there is a paradigm shift, and people are being re-educated out there. I really do believe that. But the statistics that I've seen recently is 67% of those people, if they buy tires from you, long term, the next 2 or 3 years down the road, the customer pay is going to be astronomical, and that defection rate will be obviously hampered quite a bit. And that's really what it's all about, is particularly if the average vehicle is over 12 years old, they, you know, 1 in 4 of them, you said, need recalls, right? If it's not one thing, it's another. Do you, let me ask you this. You may have actually answered this along the way, but I want to bring it up again, just in case, or at least get your thought on it. So in relation to part supplies for recalls that are announced, do you correlate or coordinate with that as well?
Yeah, that's one of the key data points. So even when you look at, say, what you might get out of NHTSA data or even factory data, we offer some unique data points that are very specific for dealer operations. So parts availability is one of them. Lift, no lift, right? So this is if you've got a mobile team, or if you're interested in servicing a mobile team, understanding whether you need a lift or not is a real key piece of it. So, and then as well, the other data points, such as like the risk and reimbursement and estimated hours of repair, will help you balance out, you know, in terms of your dealership operations, where you need to apply those resources. So yeah, I know everybody's running tight right now. That's the one thing. I'm going to tell a story, if you don't mind.
Please. No, please.
You know, you see Ed Robertson, what he's doing down at Bozarth with his mobile team, right?
Yeah. Have you ever been to that store?
I have not. I keep telling Ed every time I come into town, I got to go see the store, but I heard it's great food. What an experience, right? So, and he's certainly one of the godfathers of this industry. There's certainly a number of guys out there that are the beacons for what service should look like.
That's right.
But one of the things I think, there's another smaller dealership that we have. It's a CDJR store out in rural Pennsylvania. Small store. I think they've got maybe 8 bays, 5 to 8 bays.
That's small. Yeah.
Right. He's small. But what he's done is he's been loading up mobile vans and hiring techs that live maybe 50 miles away. And those techs really only have to come into the dealership once or twice a week at the most to just replenish their parts. And now he's expanded his service, his PMA, you know, out 100 to 150 miles out now.
Man, that's huge.
Now he's able to use this recall data to go and pinpoint where consumers can have certain repairs done right there in the driveway, and that leads to the additional spin-off.
Now you can do airbags through mobile service too, right? Okay.
Absolutely. Like one of the things that we also provide is what's called the Market Smart Report, and it'll show you which branded vehicles are sitting on off-brand or independent lots. So as a Nissan dealer, you can take a look within a 50-mile radius, all the dealerships that are selling a Nissan vehicle that's got an open recall, but they don't know, or they don't care, or they're not checking, or they're not using our data. Like if it's a Toyota dealer, they don't even know if there's a recall, if it's a factory recall, right? And not a formal NHTSA notice. They don't know that they've got these dangerous vehicles in their lot. So we're helping those dealers that Toyota dealer, if he could take that recall off of that vehicle, he's going to get a better price when he goes to sell it. And you don't want to be hiding behind disclosures and things like that that are just really just another excuse for why you didn't take care of the consumer. You might get away with it from a federal legal standpoint, but you're not going to avoid state product liability risk mitigation. So
No, it all comes out in the wash.
right, you got to take care of your customers. That's first and foremost.
Well, one of the things, it sounds like, I mean, anything that a company like yours or ours can actually do to mitigate the time factor that dealerships don't have. That's the one single fundamental challenge. I don't care if it's variable or fixed. Nobody really has time. I think, Sean, that they understand the importance of the stuff that our companies do.
Right.
And the fact that most of that is either automated or we have performance people that take care of. But I mean, as far as what happens a day to day, they don't have to manage what's going on their website. They don't have to. They don't have to continually be inputting information on their end. I find that there's a lot of really great vendors out there, but in order to achieve the desired results, somebody has to manage it, and therein lies the single huge, big, largest challenge. And they don't do that with company like Recall Masters, do they?
No, they don't. I mean, that's why really we started to spread our wings and go outside of the just recall spaces, because we recognized that. So it kind of started with, okay, we're doing data technology, and we recognized that, dealers really weren't wrapping their arms around the communications. But that also involved telephony, right? And phone support. So we started building phone trees and saying push 3 for recalls, and those go forwarded directly to our call center in Daytona Beach.
That's
and
correct.
they're picking up those phone calls like, it's Russell Hill's BMW recall department. How may I help you? And they're able to offload all of those inbound calls. Well, now we've taken all that experience and all that expertise, and now we're offering a product called Call Capture, where it's just all phone support. You want to push all inbound inquiries to us.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't know you were doing
it.
Great.
And it really starts with rollover. So you may say, well, our team's pretty good at answering the phone, but what happens when it gets to that 3rd or 4th ring? Well, they can push all that traffic to us. We'll still pick up the phone, and we'll still answer it like it's.
Yeah. Well,
so
let me say this: their team is not good at answering the phone.
Right.
But I mean, so I didn't know you did that. So for all of you listeners out there, keep that in mind too. Listen, we know everybody's bogged down with day to day, talking to your clients, following up with your clients, etc. All the ROs that you're opening and the ones that you got closed, and checking on parts and checking with the tech and all the ancillary stuff that goes on. This is just another thing to help streamline and make you a superstar above and beyond your competition.
Right. Well, which is the theme that I was mentioning, that, just about collaboration, finding out where the pain points are with the dealership, and really pulling together the skills and the resources we have to develop the kinds of products and solutions that resolve a market need. So that's what we do. That's what we're really focused on.
I saw that you guys have a new partnership with Reynolds and Reynolds. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we do. Reynolds and Reynolds, of course, the largest integrated dealer DMS in the world, if not the United States. But really, they recognize that they need to help dealers monitor every vehicle that comes through the service drive, as well as vehicles that they're taking in at trade-in or maybe purchasing at auction. And so now all of our recall data related to the vehicles, both NHTSA as well as the voluntary factory notices, are all integrated in their workflow. So that way, on a rental system, they can add recall management is what I think that they call the product. And now it provides them with a very simple way to evaluate each one of those vehicles and make a determination whether they want to bring it in an inventory, or to alert the consumer that if say you're selling tires out of the Toyota store and it's a Nissan customer that's interested in that tire deal, we can also alert them, and it's good business for us to say you got a recall on that vehicle. Now, we can't service it for you, but we can certainly push you over to our sister store that's a Nissan store, and we'll take care of you. So as we get more dealer consolidation, right, and that's happening every single day. I read a new acquisition out there. These sister stores are starting to work with one another and send a lot of business in their direction. But at the end of the day, that's really what Reynolds recognizes, that they can't ignore the liability that comes with dealers not servicing vehicles when they come through the service drive. So if you've ever read a newspaper at the liabilities out there, if you're talking about 1 in 4 vehicles, yeah, I'll bet that you've missed, you know, a handful of recalls that have come through your service drive. So I always challenge a dealer, let me just run the last 2 or 3 months of VINs, and I'll tell you how many of those had an open recall and you guys missed it.
I bet it's staggering, isn't it?
I bet it's scary.
It happens, you know.
So what do you mentioned something about they may not have the tire, but the Nissan store, is that like their sister store, or and what do dealers think about referring them away to another franchise?
Well, I mean, look, it's always a little uncomfortable, right? It's a competitive market out there.
It is.
But I still think that you have to do the right thing by the consumer, even if you just alert them that they've got an open recall. You don't necessarily have to say where they need to go to get it repaired. But I think it makes good sense for all of us in the industry to work with one another to make safer cars available to all consumers.
So I found no, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It has to happen. No, it just has to happen. I don't know any other way, you know,
that makes sense.
It does.
I wish there was another way. If you can't repair that vehicle, you owe it to yourself. Now, obviously, if you've got a sister store under your auto group rooftops that can handle that brand, then obviously send it there. Take care of a flatbed. Drive it 10 miles out to go get that recall repaired. But if you don't, I would work with the closest local dealer, and they're going to have jobs for you, and you're going to have jobs for them, and this is how we should do it.
Well, like I said, we have to think of the customer and the safety of the customer and their families. And this reminds me of something. Charity probably remembers me starting to talk. Miracle on 34th Street. Okay, that movie. And, you know, where there's Santa Claus, and the whole thing was, is there a real Santa Claus, et cetera, and end up in court and stuff. And let's say for the sake of this, it's in New York, and it's Macy's and some other of their competitors. And Santa, you know, is these little kids are asking for things, right, as they come up back, you know, as they did back in the day, and sit on his lap and tell him what do you want for Christmas, blah, blah, blah. And then he would say, well, we don't have it, but Macy's across the street has it, and it's actually $34.99 or something like that. And it's the whole marketing department moves up in arms. How dare you? And this can't happen. But it actually ended up working in their behalf, in their favor, by referring somebody out. So I think we need to look at that and take that with a grain of salt. It's about the customer, not about us. And actually, I think that will come back to you in twofold. That you're not insecure enough that you can't recommend somebody has something that could be an integral part of their safety, not only for them and their family. I think it has the opposite effect, and it means even more.
Well, and it doesn't preclude you from just calling the consumer and saying, look, it turns out your Nissan's got a recall on it. We're going to take care of that with our local Nissan store. So you don't have to. You don't have to give that customer away. There's nothing that says you have to, okay, here you go. Here's the guy's address, and you drive over there. Like you can take care of that I can take care of that for you. How about if our service team takes care of that for you? Like, that's the way we have to start acting in this industry. If you really want to preserve the relationship with the consumer long-term, yeah, you're probably not making too much money on the entire sales, but handling that relationship the right way is going to open doors for a lot more opportunity for you.
It does. And, you know, that's something, you know, in the local communities, they're involved, and all, you know, some of the integral part. I think it's great, and they should be talking about all this. You know, Charity mentioned earlier about this rentals thing. How long has that been, and how significant is that to you?
Well, obviously the partnership with anytime you have a chance to partner with somebody of the magnitude of Reynolds is a great validation for the work that we do, and especially the data that we provide. It's a huge compliment for us, but we look at it as this is a long-term play, and I think Reynolds does too. It's not just a product that you want to go out and sell, but rather taking the idea that recalls are a program, but rather a way of dealership operations that you should be checking, and you should be preserving the integrity of all of your sales and all of your service to really put customers first. That's a good message for our industry. And so I'm not overly concerned about how many of Reynolds' current clients buy into that recall department, as much as they're aware of it and they begin to educate themselves on on where the gaps are between what is
it's a long game. Yeah.
It's a long-term play for sure.
So if you can handle if they can get tires there, if you can do all your service there, if you can do recalls there, if they have a collision shop, I mean, you can literally do everything that you need and hold on to that customer. Now, you're not going to make a phenomenal amount of money on tires. And I think they tried that once before, and they were trying to make a lot of money on tires, and it just didn't work. The money is the long game.
Right.
Keeping the customers active instead of creating inactive customers. Now, this is now I know there's a lot of talk about EV out there, and oh my God, what are we going to do? And the sky is falling, and it's not falling, okay? Nor is it going to fall, and it's still years and years and years out. But if we can do it during this transitional time, if we can do a better job, are they in for oil change? No. But can we do a better job at stopping the defection rate? It'll more than make up for whatever. Yeah, right.
I mean, it's all the around the wheel work that will be done as well. And I mean, I say the same thing about recalls. Like, of course, warranty reimbursement has gone up, and just stay on top of your factory filing. It's super profitable for you. But I think at the same time, it's really just about making sure that you're doing the right thing by the customer, and being the first name that they think of when they think about service. So we always have said the front half of the store sells the first car, but the back half of the store sells everyone after that. And so that's kind of the theme, is just making sure that you take care of those customers over the long haul. And they'll continue to service with you. I think it all starts with this reintroducing your service department.
Yes.
Now, my brother is the worst dealer. He just will refuse to service at a dealership. I cannot get him to take his vehicle in. And I work in the industry, and I advocate to him, like, why aren't you doing it? But he's just one of these consumers who always thinks somebody's trying to get one over on him, and somebody's trying to overcharge for something. And so I understand that mindset, and I always use him to kind of throw ideas off of him and see if anything will convince him to service with the dealership. And the one thing he always says, that recalls thing, you kind of got me there. Like, that's the only way you're going to get me to get into the dealership. And it turned out he had a recall on I think it was a Kia Soul that he bought for his daughter, and he had to take it into the Kia. He said, they really treated me nice. I wish I knew the name of that store, but it's in Orange County somewhere. But he said they really did treat him nice. And he gave his daughter the service manager's number, said, look, anytime you got a problem on this car, you call this guy, right? So
that's nice.
I'm starting to create one at a time. I'm starting to create some fans again. So I think dealers can do that with every interaction that they have with consumers.
Yeah, I think so too. If they handle it just like what you're talking about, and the fact that he thinks they're getting over here. Listen, when you have a Kia Soul, and you got hundreds of Kia stores all over the United States that are servicing tens of thousands of Kias a day in different climates, they understand recommended maintenance, and it's their job to advise and educate the consumer. Now, is there a way to do that? Absolutely. Are they all good at it? Hell no, they're not. But I mean, it's their job to do that. And it costs much less money for routine recommended maintenance than it does for major repairs, because you did not do those things, right?
Right. And that's probably the spin-off theme with this parts shortage and the chip shortage and inventory shortages. There's a lot of vehicles in circulation right now that are a lot older and require much more servicing than ever before, which might explain why service department revenues is through the roof right now. But there's going to become a time, probably not immediately soon, where inventory is back again and parts are going again, and all these little independent repair shops are, back in business again, and your top technician left to go start his own independent repair shop. And those days are coming. It's a dark cloud in the distance at the moment, but it's coming. And you got to really prepare for how do we make that pivot? Is my dealership going to be more attractive in terms of recruiting technicians if I can offer them a mobile repair van, and they can live their 50 miles away that they want to and take care of that service area out there? I mean, that is an absolute brilliant strategy that I never thought of. I just took my friend Ryan's idea and said, wow, that is phenomenal. Like, he doesn't have a technician shortage, and he's in one of the most rural CDJR stores in all of Pennsylvania.
I think it's a combination of thing. I think that I'll tell you, we wouldn't be where we're at today without Charity. She's phenomenal at what she does. And I know that there's a lot of women that are entering into the automotive space more than ever before. The misnomer out there that being a technician has to do with getting your grease monkey. All those things are slowly starting to change. When you're talking about Gen Z and Gen Ys coming in, these young 20-year-olds and stuff like that, and I say this a lot, but they go to college and get a 4 or 6 year degree, and the numbers are staggering. It's like 92% don't even work in the chosen field that they got a degree in, coming out heavily debt laden. And now you think about EVs and all the talk about EVs and computers and stuff like that. It's starting to attract a whole different generation of people that I think are going to be plenty coming. I mean, after all, most of the challenges are technology anyway, right?
No, it's the number 2 software and electronics is the number 2 in terms of the number of vehicles affected, but it was number 1 with total campaigns. So it's not stopping anytime soon. And I think the toolbox of the future looks more like a laptop than it does, I mean, I don't know if I have a lot of tools in my garage, and I can tell you that a laptop is probably the least expensive of some of the tools that I have. So I think it's going to invite a lot more technicians into the industry, a lot of younger kids that, we're thinking about going down a software engineering path, like my own daughter, which I'll now try to convert into a technician of the future. But I think it's promising for our industry, as vehicles evolve.
The money is really good. Go ahead, Cherry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it goes from, is it going to go from a mechanic to a technician, and what does that look like? It's a really interesting thought idea, and we like to ask this every once in a while of people who come on. What do you think about the electric car movement? Is it a movement, or is it a sea change?
No, I definitely believe in the electric vehicle and where it's going and what it's doing, not only from a climate standpoint, but I really believe that it's what consumers have wanted. If you just look at the Ford F-150 Lightning sales, I mean, and the Hummer, I mean, how many brands have been reinvented under
Mustang, etc.
Right, under an electrical environment. But, the one thing that I think still is going to hold true, maybe some folks on the factory won't necessarily like me saying this, but everybody kind of looked at Tesla and said, wow, you don't need a dealership. Let's just build that model and sell direct. And let me just say this, I think the Tesla story has not been fully written, and you are going to find over the course of the next 4 or 5 years that those vehicles are going to need to go into a certified service center.
Right.
And they're going to be that line at the Tesla factory service center is going to be around the block. And I'm not sure you're going to get the same customer satisfaction scores that Tesla currently sees. So it's real easy when you take that time frame and say, the first 2 or 3 years of ownership. Well, what happens when that vehicle's on the road 20 years down the road? I'm not sure that. I hope that Tesla changes their mind and finds ways to really kind of build more localized service centers, because not everything is going to be an over-the-air update. Not everything is just going to be a fix it in your driveway scenario.
I've heard that with Teslas, if you're going to go in and get them serviced, you can sometimes wait a couple weeks.
Yep. Well, they swap out a vehicle, so I think that's their saving grace, but they're also not producing the kinds of numbers from a volume standpoint that you might expect, that's really going to compete with the internal combustion engine. So if you think about what it's going to look like in 10, 20 years from now, right? I mean, imagine, Tesla selling 8 million vehicles a year like that. Like, I don't think you're going to be able to just be swapping cars out quite the same. I think you're going to probably fall back into a more familiar traditional role of servicing at a local dealership. So I think their model is going to change. I think Elon Musk is smart enough to figure that out, that your brand and your brand integrity falls in the way of your ability to service those customers over the long haul. It's not just about winning the deal today, but about winning the deal in the future. And I hope my folks at the factory hear that too, because You need your local dealers.
That's
You
right.
Absolutely.
That's right. Listen, infrastructure, storage, there's a lot yet that hasn't quite been figured out to ramp up and get ready for this. And
Right.
all the people that are watching this and that are talking about the things that we're talking about, if they're not doing it in the next 5 years, dealerships are going to be wiped out. The ones that are going to be bought up and gobbled up by the people who have figured it out if they don't get into the game. And so let me ask you this, because we're approaching the end. Okay. Sean, what inspires you? I mean, what do you get out of bed every morning for, and what are you passionate about? Some of we heard here. Is there something that we hadn't heard, something unique about Sean that you would feel okay sharing?
Yeah, I'll go back to my Catholic not-for-profit healthcare days. When I first came out of college, I a good Catholic boy. I wanted to please my parents, and I went to go work for a not-for-profit hospital.
Providence.
Yeah, Providence down in.
We have it here too.
Right, and at Little Company of Mary Health Services, I got a chance at a very young age to grow with that organization, and it was different then in that the sisters who run the organization are visible. They are there every day, and so I could remember Sister Terry putting her arm around me and saying, let's go to mass today. And so you're doing work and you're like, okay, let's go to mass. And they have a church inside the hospital. And I just remember feeling, because they were so involved with the local community. We did a thing called Partners for Healthy Kids. And it's a mobile van that services their area and takes doctors and nurses to go provide care to the underserved communities. Right.
Wow.
And so fast forward decades later, and here I am talking about mobile repair to help resolve dangerous recalls. That's really what gets me excited about what we're doing at Recall Master. It takes me back to that original mission of what are you doing to help your local community? What are you doing to help your fellow man? That really excites me. That's where I have my passion. That's why I took my 2 kids in for playing basketball, and why I still got one of them on the payroll right now because his family's in Senegal, and I'm his only contact here in the United States. So I think that's what gets me excited. And I'm really charged by the people that I meet day in and day out in this industry who are just as committed to doing the right thing by the consumer.
Wow.
So,
that's so true. That's very endearing.
Yeah, I gotta, that is, listen, so, a lot of you know about Recall Masters and Sean Reyes, and we hope today you got much more information, a little bit of insight as to what people don't know about Sean and how they connected the dots from what he just mentioned to where he's at now. It's just it's an amazing story. Hey, Charity, let's because we reached the top of the hour.
Yep. Well, we have about a minute or two, Sean, and we'd like to give you the floor. Any events, anything you'd like to share with our audience, you're welcome to have the floor.
Yeah, I mean, I'll promise not to sell because I don't want to sell. I want to inform and share.
That's up to you.
Yeah, I'll share. I want to share data. So I invite anybody in the audience that if they're interested in learning a little bit more about their local service area, like what's out there that they don't know. We run reports. It's called a market opportunity report. And I just set the radius around the dealership, and by zip code, I'll tell you how many vehicles of your brand that you service are available in your local community. I'll even run a secondary report that will show you the recalls that are out there in terms of their counts and their total reimbursement estimates. So it'll give you start painting a picture for you of how much money is sitting around me that I don't even know about. And then the third thing I'll do is throw in the Market Smart report, which is gives you a snapshot of the brands that are sitting in off-brand or independent lots. And that's just information for you to review. I offer that absolutely at no cost to you. If you have a need to know more, you just reach out to me at sean@recallmasters.com. And if I can enlighten you on the subject of recalls, that's what I hope to do first. And the selling stuff will happen down the road.
Yeah,
If you see
yeah.
value and you make that connection, you see the relevance and you say, wow, you know what, where can I start, Sean? Maybe I don't need to jump in all the way. Where can I start to improve how we do
Good
it here?
deal.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And
Give him a call.
if you're a rentals client, you call your rentals rep and you let him know you're interested in taking a demo on that recall management product.
That's right. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Sean Reyes, Chief Marketing Officer, Recall Masters. Yes.
Thank you,
Sean,
guys.
thank you very much.
Sean.
Another successful episode of WTF, and that's what the fixed ops to all of you out there. Look Sean up and what he's doing. It's really profound, and it's more service related than anything. It's about your safety, your family's safety, and it has to do with keeping customers coming in and keeping them active in your service department. And this is one of many ways that can happen, but this is an extremely important one, right? Because it has to do with safety. Your vehicle's on the road, and 1 in 4 have some kind of open recall. Is that correct, Sean? Did I say that right? Okay. So look him up, like him, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, wherever he's at, do the same thing with us. Like us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, whatever there is out there. And we look forward to the next WTF. Thank you very much, Sean.
See you next time.
Charity. Bye.